You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
And Oliver's been busy. He's been in Durban, I know, but you can certainly catch him every night as well, as he mentioned, from 10 to midnight. Right, let's talk about an issue that should concern you, right? The EFF has a red alert. They've written a letter to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, that's Park Stow, regarding reports of the awarding of the National Lottery operating license to the Gold Rush Consortium. Now, the EFF says this entire process was done unlawfully. So let's get their perspective and the whole backstory to this and what do they want next with Sandile Tembe, the EFF national spokesperson. Appreciate your time as always, Sandile. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Nice talking to you again, Ashraf. Greetings to the listeners.
Thank you. Okay, give us some context here. What is the issue? What is your concern?
Look, so our concern, which we have raised as early as the 5th of March, is that the shortlisting process for the awarding of the operating license of the National Lottery, which is worth 180 billion, and that's for some context as to why South Africans should care about the National Lottery, is that it generates a lot of revenue through people who play, of course, the lotto, but also has some core social functions which relate to social outreach, which is funding of healthcare initiatives, funding of sporting initiatives, and funding of small businesses and entrepreneurs. So that is the crucial role that it plays in South African society. Now, the operating license for the National Lottery, which has this function, the shortlisting for it, in our view, had for a long time a dominance of ANC-aligned companies. And this is a concern that we raised in the Portfolio Committee of Trade, Industry and Competition. The likes of Tembe Investments, which has, Batu Trust is a subsidiary of it, which has donated 60 million to the ANC. In 2021, the likes of Hoskin Investments, which is aligned to SAP2, and which is a union aligned to COSATU, and is also has a CEO in the form of Johnny Copeland, who's donated to the CR17 campaign. And now this company, Gold Rush Consortium, which is owned and led by one Sandile Zungu, who was formerly an ANC KwaZulu-Natal provincial hopeful in 2022, and is a known associate and funder of the African National Congress, not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but nationally. So our concern, which we've raised with not only the Portfolio Committee preceding the letters that we wrote to the Minister of Trade, but also the the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Trade as well, is that the irregularity is patently unlawful, because now we are being told that there are ongoing negotiations which are in advanced stages with Gold Rush Consortium. And if that is the case, that means that the appointment and awarding of the license to Gold Rush Consortium will be in violation of the National Lotteries Act, which states that there must be no shareholding or awarding of a license to a company that is politically aligned, is politically influenced, or has any financial interest in the lottery for political purposes. And Sandile Zungu presents a contradiction and a violation to this provision of the Act. I think the second thing I must mention, Ashraf, as well, is that there are concerns around members of the Bid Evaluation Committee. So two of them are said to have direct relationships. With Gold Rush Consortium. First one is said to own a gaming company, a restaurant rather, in Tshwane, which owns gaming slots which belong to Gold Rush Consortium. This means that there are business relationships between a person who was evaluating all of the bidders and Gold Rush Consortium. And the second one is someone who was said to have attended Gold Rush Consortium's 25th Gala anniversary dinner and ostensibly made donations to them. So those are the conflicts of interest that we're raising, and it's given the minister 24 hours to refrain, first to make a declaration that will refrain from announcing a winner of the bid, but also to come and account before the Portfolio Committee within the next 24 hours, or we will be taking legal action.
All right, you're saying 24 hours to refrain from announcing it, but I mean, you already know the winning bid too, in terms of this closed bid.
So the announcement, the minister had said in March that he'll be making the announcement on the 28th of May. So we've given him 24 hours to respond to our letter, committing not to make that announcement until he appears before the Portfolio Committee to account and provide transparency on the bidding process, whether he's done the necessary screening and whether he's followed the National Lotteries Act as it relates to awarding this tender, and to clarify to us as to whether he's followed the necessary legislation that guides this process as well.
Help us understand this in terms of the legality. I mean, in terms of putting things out to tender from government level, I mean, what can and can't be done?
Look, so the tender is public, and one of the provisions that are made in the National Lotteries Act is that it must be advertised in national newspapers and provincial newspapers so that it's open and available to anyone who may want to bid. But the legislative framework in terms of licensing is very specific, that there must be no political influence or political interest in the financial transaction of the National Lottery. And that is what Sandile, Zungu, and Moses Tembe present a contradiction to. So that is the first violation that we're speaking to. But another violation that I think is important for us to mention relates to capacity. So the National Lotteries Act speaks to the fact that any company that is awarded the license, the minister must consider whether they have a continuous and unconstrained ability to effect the duties that are required of someone who's awarded the national license, a national operating license for the National Lottery. Now, this speaks to infrastructure. And already we are being told that any new bidding company will require 6 months to set up the necessary infrastructure. Now, how much more will this take for Gold Rush Consortium? Because we are aware that they have made a marketing announcement to their shareholders and people interested in their securities and their shares that they are in the process of negotiating some deal that will require expansion of their business interests and their operation capacity. Now, this just only shows you already that they don't have the required capacity to operate the National Lottery, which is required by law in terms of the National Lotteries Act. So this is what is concerning us, and this is why we're raising the alarm. And hopefully before the 28th of May, we'll get the clarity and prevent a political backroom deal from taking over such an important institution.
Okay, 28th of May. We've all made a note of it. Let's see what happens and whether, in fact, the Minister of Trade does respond. Sinawa Tambo, thank you for your time. EFF's national spokesperson. So what do you make of that conversation in terms of what they see as, someone too close to the political elite in terms of business, winning an award for the national lotteries given to Gold Rush Consortium? They certainly want to have them effectively removed from that announcement that could be made on the 28th of May if they stick to that date. Any thoughts on that?